Hey, it's Bronwyn, and welcome to yet another Black Mental Health is Black Health. Well, today has been a little challenging in terms of the show because my guest had technical difficulties and they were not able to be here. But we're going to still be here tonight. And I still get to talk about why we celebrate Black history. And I'm going to focus on from a mental health point of view. So, let's get started with our 3 deep cleansing breaths. You know how we do it. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. One more. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Let me get in on that deep breathing. I needed one, like I say. It was a challenge. We worked hard, and that challenge of getting that guest on tonight could not happen, but doesn't mean that it won't happen in the future. But because this is the first Tuesday in the month of February, I still wanted to talk about Black history. Why in the world do we bother? What's the point? Does it really impact our mental health? And yes, it does. So first, let me give you a little history of why in the world do we have Black History Month and why is it in February? Some people like to say, well, I don't know why they gave us February, the shortest month of the year. No one gave us anything. 100 years ago, Carter G. Woodson, who was the son of former slaves and the second African American to graduate with a PhD from Harvard in history, is the one who created Black History, then Negro History Week. He chose February because it was the birth month of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln, and he felt both were important in our history. So that is why this month was chosen. So what made him want to even deal with the study of Negro history? Well, when he was a historian and he noticed that all the conferences he went to and everything he did, we never appeared in any history books. Now, he focused a lot on Negroes in America and what we've done and all the contributions we made up until that point, 1926. Actually, 1915 is when he began this journey of making Negro history something that people studied, finding books. He couldn't find books about it. So making sure our history was in the books, making sure what we did and our contributions were noted and it didn't go to waste. So after working on just this concept of making Black history, Negro history real, in 1926, he decided that he would, in 1926, he decided he would do something about it. So at that point, he started Negro History Week. He also started an organization, I believe in 1915, the the Study of Negro Life and History. And now it is known as the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. It still exists today, and you can look it up. You can find it. You can type in asalh.com and find it. The Association for the Study of African American Life and History. So it started off as Negro History Week, as I said, in 1926. And he wanted to have a dedicated time where our history as a people here in America was studied. Now, let me say this. Our history as a people does not begin with enslavement in America. We have a rich heritage taking us from Africa to here and beyond throughout the diaspora. Even our history here in America doesn't begin with the enslavement. And he, recognized that and put that out, that we were here before the European settlers came and stole the land from the Native Americans. So our history, so I'm challenging you, if you've never heard this, to go and dig deep in our history and know that is why he wanted it to be known, wanted it to be real, wanted us to be out there. So why does it matter? Let me tell you about a study some of you may know and some of you may not. Doctors Kenneth and Mamie Clark in 1947 conducted a study using dolls. In this study, there were 4 dolls, and they were all identical except for the color of the dolls. 2 were designed to represent Caucasians. 2 were designed to represent African Americans. And in this study, children were chosen. These were all us, all little brown African American melanated darlings were asked to identify which doll they wanted. They were asked questions such as, which doll do you prefer? Well, first, which doll do you want to play with? Which one looks like the nice doll? Which one looks like the bad doll? And then, which one looks like you? By and large, with the Clark study, there were 200 children involved. Of that 200, the majority of them chose the white doll. The results of this study helped with the desegregation case in Brown versus Board of Education. And the idea was that the racism that they faced, the Clarks concluded that prejudice, discrimination, and segregation created the feeling of inferiority among African American children and damaged their self-esteem. So the self-esteem, thus that's part of your mentality, your mental health is how you feel about yourself. And the racism, prejudice, and discrimination and segregation cause children to unknowingly feel inferior, because when you can recognize this doll looks like me, but I choose this doll to be the nice one, I choose this one to play with. The study has been replicated more than one time. There was a high school student that replicated using, this was just wanted to see, back in 2007. And she had 21 children in her study, and 15 out of 21 preferred the white doll. Again, in 2021, and this was a formal study then, there was another replication by Dr. Sturtevant, and they conducted, this was here in Texas, as a matter of fact, and they did 4 dolls, Black, white, and Latina, were what were represented in the dolls, finding that children still demonstrated a pro-white and anti-Black basis. Children were observed placing dolls, for example, in a cooking pot or stepping on them. This is the Black dolls. And sometimes rejecting dolls with the hair like mine. So still says a lot about our mental wellness. This was as recent as 2021. So what does that say? We haven't changed since 1947? Well, in some ways we haven't. The prejudice, the racism, and things are still there. Segregation may look different, but discrimination and prejudice are still there. And there is integration and segregation within integration. What do I mean by that? I can look at children who are going to majority Caucasian schools. You have African American children. They may be there, but they're often still segregated within that school. Having a conversation on the pros and cons of segregation is for a full topic within and of itself. I will just say that the things that they face, the segregation, the prejudice, and racism that was faced then still exists, and still has a negative impact on our children's self-esteem. So how does all of that fit into the study of Black history? Well, there are many things that we can do to work to counteract these forces that are not just against our children, but against all people of color, all melanated people. We're facing these things every day that tell us that we're not as good. Before I go on with why mental health, I want to challenge you this. Start looking at commercials and look at them through this lens. How do you see melanated people treated in commercials? Funny and joking. I'm not going to say any products because I want to stay on here so you can hear me. But I've noticed that there, and I can't even think of it right now, but one product where the woman and her husband's children are running all over the place. Oh yeah, I guess they deserve it. So they're portrayed as bad actors. The children are. I've just noticed that with the same products, sometimes how are Black people portrayed, how are white people portrayed? Who's the good guy, who's the bad guy in a commercial? Start looking at that, and just you begin to notice how we might look different just in advertising. And that is planting that subliminal message. Even the shows you watch, who are the characters, who are the ones that are the bad guys, who are the good guys, and begin to see. Just start looking and see. Those are those subliminal messages that have been put out forever, and they're still being put out. So begin to start looking at that on your own and just see what is going on. I just want you to see on your own. You may not see what I see, but unfortunately or fortunately, that is the lens in which I watch television. That is the lens in which I watch commercials. And I'm just struck by what I see. So how does, going back to how all of this impacts our mental health? There are so many ways we can combat these issues. One is understanding and knowing our history. Why is that important? I will tell you this. When we learn that first off, we do need to learn we did not start off as a people being enslaved in America. That is not the origin of our history. So we need to understand that and teach it to our children. But also, there are adults who don't know. Recently, I can't tell you how many adult African Americans I've encountered who didn't know who Carter G. Woodson was, who didn't know, and this is not a slam against anybody. It's not taught in history. It's not in the history books, but we have to do that. We can't depend on the school to do it. There are several who didn't know that this was a 100th anniversary. Didn't know it started off as Negro History Week in 1926. 50 years later, it became Black History Month. In 1976, which happened to be the bicentennial, the 200th anniversary of this country. Many people don't know that. When you begin to know your history, know where you came from, it can instill a sense of pride in knowing that's wow. We weren't just the enslaved. And during that time period, during the enslavement, we didn't just bow down. No. So beginning to know that. So what are some ways it helps our mental health? When you begin to know who you are, you can have a stronger identity for yourself and for your people. And that can boost that self-esteem. You know, when you realize, oh yeah, you can have a sense of pride, and it's not, people owe pride this, no, but it's a sense of, I know who I am and I feel good about me. And that's something we can teach our children, but that's something we can generate in adults as well. I can tell you there are adults, 80s, who say they wish they were born white because it's just not good being Black. And I find that sad that you have spent your whole life not understanding the greatness within you and knowing that how God created you to be something special. Another thing that way our mental health can be helped is that when you know your history and understand it's been a struggle and there has been so much going on that it's just hard. The other thing we can learn is resilience. Understand that we went through all of that, and not just we went through the enslavement. Not just we went through the civil rights and we see the cursory, what's out there, but digging deep and finding out what it really took to get through that, what kind of person it took to manage being enslaved, what kind of person it took to manage sitting on a lunch counter having milk poured over your head. And ladies, come on, you know, you just got your hair done, and back then, and you got a good press on your hair and your new dress, because they had to go looking good, because you weren't going to look like you were just thrown off. You had to represent and represent well. And so you're in your new clothes, guys in their white shirt, then black tie, and milk is poured over your head, cold milk. So it's going down you, and you sit there and you take it because you feel like this is what's going to help. When we understand that, and you see the resilience and the strength, and that they had a hope for a better tomorrow, and that we can have that same hope for a better tomorrow. Because right now in America, let's face it, things looking pretty wicked. And there are people who are like, well, just where's it going to go? And then there are those who say, well, we survived worse than this. We survived this. And others are like, but I'm tired of surviving. But when we understand truly what that survival is, it will give you a resilience and a hope that you can't believe. And I want to mention here too, often when we think about the struggle, we think about being African American, being melanin dominant. We think of the struggle and the hard times, but let's not forget the joy. And I think as we study Black history, we've got to focus on the joy as well. What does that have to do with our mental health? Well, my goodness, if we only focus on the struggle, that can make you feel some kind of way. Yeah, we overcame, we're resilient. I've got a stronger self-esteem. I feel good because I came from this. But there is also joy. There is joy and pain. The Isley brothers knew what they were talking about. But there is joy we need to focus on. Think about your own family. Everybody's families had some kind of struggle. But hopefully your family's had some kind of joy. So as a people, there was joy. Think back. I can think of just, this is off the cuff, some funny things that are joy. Think about when you were young. So those who are in my age group, we can remember back in the day when Soul Train came on. And when Soul Train came on, you were up dancing, you were having fun watching it. Maybe you were supposed to be cleaning up on that Saturday morning, but when Soul Train came on, you stopped. And you danced and you looked at all the performers and you couldn't wait to see the dancers, what they were going to be doing. You couldn't wait to see who was going to be on. That was joy. That was fun. Yes, it's not, that's just a wild example. We had fun. We could go out and party and have fun. We could go out and they were house parties. And then there was, within our community, we do have our own caste system. I'm just going to mention it that way. So you had those who loved the dressy cocktail parties and teas, emulating the other culture, but we did it our own way with our own flair, and it was fun. So we have not just had, we have joy. We think about the good things, just going to a concert, going to the park, playing with your kids. Joy can be on a grand scale. Joy can be on a smaller scale, but we have joy. And I don't want to miss that because joy is so important for your mental health. When you have joy, it can foster that sense of hope. When you have joy, it can foster that resilience. It can foster that idea that I can go on because it's not all bad. And being Black is not all bad. A few more things about being able to how it helps our mental health. You know, if you've watched the show before, you know I celebrate Kwanzaa, and in celebrating Kwanzaa, one of the things one of the reasons is because that sense of community. It's one of the principles. All really foster a sense of community, whether there's unity, the self-determination, which is personal and community-wise, celebrating, supporting Black businesses, supporting your creativity to use in your community. All of these principles support community. When you have a sense of community, you can have a sense of belonging. So I say that, I want to push back on that. Oh, Black people can't work together. I disagree. That may be your story, but that's not everyone's story. So, yes, we can work together. We can have that sense of community. And if you don't have it in one space in your life, go find it. Because we have a shared history, we can have a shared culture, we can have a shared joy. And when we have that culture, that joy, that sense of belonging, we're better off and we're going to feel better. And your mental health, you survive and thrive when you have that community. When we have a stronger sense of community, because we can have more empathy for each other, because we can be hard on each other. We're quick to say, and it's true, and if you don't know what it means, I'll let you marinate on it a minute. All skin folk and kinfolk. And that's true, just because Jeremiah Wright said that everybody in your color ain't your kind. There are going to be some that we're going to have to push aside, but not everybody. And so we want to try. Some people don't want to be a part of community, don't want to be that. That's good for them. Got to let them go. Harriet couldn't take everybody when she was going her Underground Railroad. You weren't ready to go. You had to stay. But we can have a sense of emotional attachment to our community, to the people in our community. We can validate and we can work on each other's healing. We have a lot to heal from. Those who were deposited here in America, we have in our DNA the impacts of the enslavement. There are things we do today, things we act, and there's studies that show this. It actually some of the research started with studying Jews whose families were in the concentration camp, those that came out, and then looked generationally at what happened. And we hold the vestige of slavery in our DNA. We can heal from that only when we're working together, when we recognize it and we work to heal from it. Also, as we work on, another thing that we can learn is our own empowerment and purpose collectively, not just individually. So when we study our past and understand what we've done, understand our purpose and how it is morphed and changed over the years, where are we now? What is our purpose now? What do we need to do now as a people? Where are we going? How far are we from the days of Carter G. Woodson in 1926, when he realized, hey, we are just not in the history books. Now we know to study not just here, but digging further. How far are we? We're in a place now where our history is being taken out of books, taken out of schools, books being removed from libraries. Here in Texas, in certain districts where libraries are closed in schools in African-American neighborhoods. History is a thing of the past. And I don't mean history, but the study of history. Okay, that's fine. That means we as adults need to know our history and share it with our children and our children's children. We need to share it with other adults who don't know their history. So yeah, we may not know it. It may not have been out there, but hey, it's okay. We need to share our history. We need to know our history. As we know our history, we can share our history. We can take joy in our history. We can learn from our history. And let me say this, all of our history is not going to be good. No. Some of it is going to be ugly. Some of it is going to feel bad. It is. That's all I can say about that. It's not going to all be pretty. So I wanted to end, and I'm going to see if I can pull this up. As I said, my guest was unable to make it, and there was a lot of just stuff going on. And I was determined to say, but we're still going to get on. So I want to just share a short, let me see if it can work. And so we are really just being bold by actually trying this while we're on camera. But hey, we're going to see what happens. Well, I don't think I can actually pull it up. So I guess I won't be that bold, but I can share it with you without the pictures. So I wanted to just remind us that we have done so much as we celebrate this month. There are so many things we've done. So I'm just going to bring up a few names, past and present, of some Black firsts and some Blacks in history. Hopefully we all know, and I'd say hopefully we take it for granted. Oh, those are the basic people. Sojourner Truth, born Isabella Bumfrey, born in 1797, died in 1883. She's most known for her Ain't I a Woman speech. But what we need to understand is that is not how she presented the speech. She was a woman of impeccable intelligence and speech. She was an orator. She did not speak that way. Her speech was printed in a newspaper, a white newspaper, and that is how they translated it because they said it sounded more like a former slave to talk like that. So study it, find out Sojourner Truth. Do you know the first African American who was elected to Congress back in 1870? It was Hiram Revels, and he was from Mississippi. Check him out. Claudette Colvin. We know about Rosa Parks, but do we know that 9 months before Rosa Parks sat down and was arrested, there was Claudette Colvin, age 15. She was arrested in Montgomery as well. And there were countless others, but she was a true advocate for civil rights. And she died this year. She was born in 1939 and died January 13th, 2026. Check out Claudette Colvin. Fannie Lou Hamer. She coined the phrase, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. An awesome woman of the civil rights movement. And we hear so much about the men because it was a patriarchal movement. We hear so much about the men. I wanted to tell you about a few women. But what about who invented what? And I want to give you some past and present ones. Anybody in here ever drive a car, been in a car, looked at a stoplight, that 3-position traffic light? Credit that to Garrett Morgan. What about the gas mask that was used to help soldiers in war? Yeah, give him credit for that too. Anybody in here old enough to remember using an ironing board? Sarah Boone, born in 1932, died in 1904, revolutionized the ironing board. As someone I talked to this week said, of course we did all this. We the one doing the work. We had to make work easier for us. We were smart. We already, as a people, know I need to work smarter, not harder. But back to fun. Lonnie Johnson, the Super Soaker. You ever played with that Super Soaker water gun? Yeah, that was a brother, Lonnie Johnson, born in 1949, who created the Super Soaker. Anybody ever in here get on Zoom, FaceTime, WhatsApp, and any of those? Well, the inventor of the tech that powers those, Marion Croak, born in 1955, still alive today. See, we're still alive and kicking and making new things. Her genius is behind some of the technology that powers Zoom, FaceTime, and WhatsApp. And what about last one, just because we're out of time, Misty Copeland, because see, she was the first African-American principal dancer in the New York Ballet. We are everywhere. We're in science, we're in arts, we're everywhere. And so let's celebrate who we are, what we do, and how we do it. As I come to the end tonight, I want to say this because I always have my call to action. And my call to action is this: know your history, be proud of your history, share your history with your children if you don't have any child in your life, but not just children, with the adults in your life, because too many of us don't know our history. And lastly, vote, vote, vote. We'll have a special show coming up soon talking about voting and why we need to do it. Um, hmm. Well, I will see you. Thank you for joining tonight, even though my guest could not come on due to technical difficulties far beyond her control or mine. Hopefully you learned something tonight about